launch military attacks abroad. The administration's 3 spokesmen, all with very personal experience of war, delivered the same message. The world is awaiting America's response.
Hezbollah is hoping that isolationism will prevail. North Korea is hoping that ambivalence carries the day. They are all listening for our silence.
Left to make the military case for attacks, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, who had been a skeptic of broad military action.
I have never been told to change the momentum. I have been told to degrade capability.
Senators in the administration came face to face with an American public deeply skeptical of another conflict in the Middle East.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Committee will be in order. The committee will be in order.
The first time I testified before this committee when I was 27 years old, I had feelings very similar to that protester. And I would just say that is exactly why it is so important that we are all here.
With that reluctance in mind, the administration took extra care to clarify what military action would be.
Limited, targeted effort. There will not be American boots on the ground with respect to the Civil War.
And would not, even when Secretary Kerry for a moment seemed to open the door to U.S. boots on the ground.
I don't want to take off the table an option that might or might not be available to a President of the United States to secure our country.
As the violence continues in Syria, CNN is taking an exclusive look at the Al-Assad dynasty. The family has ruled the country for more than 40 years. Nick Patton-Wells tracked their rise to power.
The dynasty began in November 1970 when Hafez overthrew his boss, seizing power for himself in a bloodless coup.
He consolidated his power by, again, rooting out enemies, installing loyalists in key intelligence, security, and military units, rewarding them with perks, using corruption as a way to also win their loyalty, and just being very street smart and very clever.
Being from a minority group, the Alawites, Hafez al-Assad knew he had to broaden his power base if he were to stay in power.
He, in fact, tried to make broad alliances with a number of minority communities, not only the very important Sunni upper class, but some of the Christians and Kurds as well. And to that degree, he was always careful about relying on any sort of Alawi or kind of tribal alliances that could potentially put his regime at a disadvantage because of their smaller percentage of the population.
And when needed, Hafez al-Assad used brute force.
Assad was very clever, very intelligent, ruthless, but not gratuitously so. He used force, including imprisonment and torture and the like, to maintain himself in power, not as something that he necessarily took pleasure in doing, but it was part of a mafia-like regime.
Now, Fidel Castro, the man who kidnapped and imprisoned 3 women in Ohio, is dead. The case has shocked and horrified people around the world. Castro repeatedly raped the women and kept them captive for more than a decade. Last month, he was sentenced to life in prison plus 1,000 years. And just 33 days after, he was found hanging in his Ohio prison. Authorities are calling it an apparent suicide. Castro's attorney says earlier request to have his client evacuated by a group of psychologists was denied. Here is more.
Castro's last public words delivered a month ago.
I'm not a monster. I'm a normal person. I am just sick. I did not prey on women. I just acted on my sexual instincts.
Last night, he was found dead, discovered at 9:20, hanging in his jail cell at the Correctional Reception Center in Orient, Ohio, near Columbus. He had been sentenced to life in prison plus 1,000 years for kidnapping and sexually assaulting 3 women for over a decade. Castro was being held in protective custody, the only one in his cell, with guards checking on him every 30 minutes. Prison medical staff tried to revive him and rushed him to the Ohio State University Medical Center. He was pronounced dead at 10:52 p.m. Castro received few visitors while in prison. His daughter told CNN back in May that she wanted nothing to do with him.
My father's actions pictures are not a reflection of everyone in the family. I have no problem cutting him out of my life. I have no problem doing that. I never want to see him again.
Earlier this month, the house where Castro tortured his victims was torn down. Neighbors rejoicing during the demolition of the so-called House of Horrors. At his sentencing, he apologized to his victims, but remained defiant about keeping Gina De Jesus, Amanda Berry, and Michelle Knight locked up in his home for around a decade.
I do have value for human life, because every time I came home, I would be so glad of the situation. As crazy as it may sound, I am truly sorry for what happened. To this day, I'm trying to answer my own questions. I don't know why.
Only one of his victims showed up in person to confront him, saying she wanted him to spend the rest of his life in prison.
Death penalty will be so much easier. You don't deserve that. I spent 11 years in hell. Now your hell is just beginning.
For his 3 former captives, Ariel Castro's death is yet another gruesome chapter in a tragic story.
And again, Castro was in isolation at that state prison, but he was not on suicide watch like he initially was right after his arrest. In fact, his attorneys are saying this morning that they had put in 2 requests for a psychiatric evaluation, and both of those requests were denied.
And now in India, a holy man has been accused of an unholy act. The 72-year-old and influential spiritual leader is accused of raping a 16-year-old female follower. Liza Felsilika has more.
Amid angry protests by his supporters, this 72-year-old Hindu preacher is in police custody. A 16-year-old girl has accused him of sexual assault at an ashram. Though Asaram Bapu denies the charges, he failed to appear for questioning and police arrested him early Sunday. The girl's parents were followers of the Guru, revered by millions for his discourses on spiritual enlightenment. But on August 15th, they allege, he asked their daughter to stay after prayers and sexually assaulted her while her mother waited outside. At Tuesday's bail hearing, the Guru's lawyer asked why, if she was being raped, hadn't the alleged victim's mother come to her rescue. He also argued the girl was not underage, therefore the charges don't stand. But police say they have strong evidence against him.
Whatever has been said by the victim, we have collected all those evidences which corroborates her statement.
The preacher has claimed he's incapable of rape, but police say a physical test showed he's in good shape.
The team of doctors are saying he is perfectly medically, mentally and physically fit.
Asaram Bapu's supporters say he's being punished for speaking out against the ruling Congress Party's leader Sonia Gandhi and her son Raul. But the Hindu preacher has received supportive statements from opposition Hindu nationalists, leading to questions if he's being shielded by powerful BJP politicians, a charge the Guru angrily denies. But the BJP is now distancing itself from him, calling on members to stay away from the case. The controversial Guru outraged many Indians earlier this year when he said the victim of a deadly gang rape on a New Delhi bus was just as much to blame as her assailants because she hadn't begged for mercy. Now it's not just his words, but his alleged actions that are under scrutiny. Liza Vasilova, CNN, Atlanta.
We now take our second break.